morning, America. Welcome to this early newscast, sponsored by... Good morning, America. Welcome to this early newscast, sponsored by Kleenex.
Thank you. Excuse me. Whatever.
My name is Libby, and this is your co-anchor, Seabass.
Thank you. Good morning.
We're here in the studios with more important information about World War II. There's been many ethnicities have been impacted in this war. One of the ethnicities have been the Mexicans. There was more than 500,000 Mexicans in the war. Although Mexicans weren't a big part of the war, they were still in it. They were also faced with many discrimination. Many young Mexican Americans had a very unique style, which began many conflicts between the servicemen, which broke out the Zoot Suit race riots, according to the LA Times. Now here's my co-anchor, Seabass, to go into deeper detail about these.
Thank you, Libby, and good morning, America.
Good morning.
Here with Seabass. Yes, this is a big topic on our hands. I have three major important categories I would like to talk to you about. And I'm going to update everyone on what I found was interesting. As Libby just mentioned to you, Mexicans, believe it or not, were involved and actually helped the U.S. during the World War II. Shockingly, they were discriminated as well. And the following Zoot Suit race riots followed up after that. As I said earlier, Mexicans were eventually getting involved with the U.S., and I will talk to you about that right now. World War II had an enormous impact on Latinos in the United States. Excuse me. Including Mexican Americans. Mexican Americans were drafted into a volunteer for the U.S. Armed Services, which is pretty amazing, where they had the highest percentage of Congressional Medal of Honor winners, which means they were elected and brought in. The war also fueled Latino migration to the United States as the defense industries grew and many workers went off to war. This is where we get deep into detail to the Mexicans' involvement in the war. Women and African Americans entered industry in large numbers to Mexico, or braceros as they called them, were through with the Bracero program, a 1942 labor agreement between the United States and Mexico. Although the Bracero program brought Mexicans to the United States to work primarily in agriculture, some workers were also employed in various industries. Over 100,000 contracts were signed between 1943 and 1945 to recruit and transport Mexican workers to the United States for employment, working conditions, camps. They were also sent to the railroads. Oh man, we cut that part. By early 1945, the Bracero population in the Philadelphia area numbered approximately 1,000, most of whom worked on the Pennsylvania Railroad, living in substandard conditions in box car camps. The laborers had little contract with the general population and limited access to health care, recreation, translators, and legal aid, as we will talk about earlier.
It's gonna show me.
And back to me with the old news that was recorded today this morning and showing it to you now news. Not the old news. I'm thirsty in here. Can I get a drink? Thank you. I'm not that thirsty.
The thirst is real.
And back to the discrimination and Zoot Suit laws, riots that happened during World War II. It's amazing. Get to read it. Watch. One of the most serious incidents of discrimination occurred during World War II in the Zoot Suit riots in World War II. The incident received its name from the type of clothing known as zoot suit, worn by many young Mexicans at the time in the early 1940s. This was like a new teen swag for them. Baggy pants, a little tie there and there, you know, a little shirt under, hair done, everything done. And it started in the summer of 1943. A dispute between a Mexican American and Angelo erupted into widespread rioting. Angelo members of the armed forces were soon joined by the civilians in a spree of attacking and beating Mexican Americans wherever they were found. Isn't that amazing, Libby? With the end of the war, the return of troops from overseas, the railroad workers were required to return to Mexico. This was a very tragic movement for the Mexicans. They had to move from one part of the country from where they all started. With the end of the war and the return of the troops from overseas, the railroad workers were required to return to Mexico, as I said. Serving or working abroad or moving to a large city expanded the horizons of a generation of Mexican Americans. It got very populated, like many African Americans. They had sacrificed for their adopted country. They began to want more of the American dream. Better education, better jobs, and an end to racism and discrimination. That's what they begged for. At least that's what they expected. They considered themselves as Americans and wanted their full civil rights. Many decided to change the system in which they were reared. The termination of war also brought the being in GI Bill. Is that? Alright, you can pause. And now, we'll go live with Morris after the break at Bakersfield.
Alright, good morning, LA. Thank you, CBAS, for that wonderful information.
You're welcome.
We are live in the city of Bakersfield, California. Today we are having a very important interview with one of the farmers who's recently moved to the U.S. His name is
Hector Rodriguez.
He has frequently faced discriminations and mistreatment from the people living around him. Hector, why don't you tell us what it is to live in the U.S. for you?
Well, first of all, I moved here because I had no other job in Mexico, and no opportunities were found for me. My family has been struggling every day with no food, water, and with a little shelter. I came here to work for money to send for my family. I'm hoping to settle down here, and maybe one day, I'll bring my family with me. I have 3 kids and a wife to take care of, and they need me, especially through these rough times. It has not been easy, but here we are, man.
Well, I'm sorry for that.
It's all good.
Well, what kind of discriminations have you faced since you got to the U.S.?
Oh man, people don't treat me right, and it's way different as I thought it would be. I live in very poor conditions in these boxcar camps, man. They have very little contact with the general population, and we also have limited access to healthcare, recreations, translators, or even legal aid, man. Americans don't seem to like us, and they often call us offensive names and even.
Wow, those are some cruel words. Things are to say to other people who just trying to live in the U.S.
Yeah.
What are your plans after the war?
Well, I haven't really thought about it, but like I said before, I want to bring my family with me and start a new life in the U.S. The Rosetta program said it's temporal, but I'm hoping that I could get my citizenship anytime soon, man. You know?
Well, that's good. Okay. As you can see, life in American immigration has not been easy at all, but they are still do whatever it takes to maintain their family. Thank you, Hector, for your wonderful interview.
Sure, I even made you a present. It's personalized hat. I made it myself. I hope you like it. I hope you wear it on your weekends when you go shopping, or I don't know, man. You know.
Well, my kids made you for your kids.
Oh, really? We don't have this in Mexico. It's really tight. Thank you, News or whatever you are, and hope to see you guys soon.
Back to
Thank
Libby.
you, Stephen. Now we're here in the studio with an eyewitness. Back to Steven.
Thank you, Libby and Seabass, for the information. And we're here with
Suzanne.
Suzanne, who will tell us more about the war.
Well, all I gotta say is that those camps, or whatever it is that they're living in, are very dirty, but I guess someone has to do the job. I just hope they send them back once the war is gone. And those suits that those kids are wearing is just a waste of raw material, and that's all I have to say about the problem.
What do you mean by waste of raw material?
Well, with the fabric, their pants are just too loose and too baggy. It could be used for better stuff.
Tell me how it would be used for better stuff.
I don't know, maybe to make uniforms for the sailors and stuff.
Well, that's it from the eyewitness. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching this very, very important newscast.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next Monday.